Christian Parenting.
Hey, this is Amy Parker.
And Mike Naraki.
The Bible for Kids podcast is now brought to you in part by our friends and partners over at christianparenting.org. They are reaching over 500,000 parents on a monthly basis with podcasts just like The Bible for Kids, offering practical help and spiritual guidance to parents just like you.
Because of the Christian Parenting Podcast Network, we're able to reach people on a weekly basis with encouragement that might just help them take that pivotal next step in their parenting journey.
So today, if you have been impacted by this podcast, we are asking you to visit Christian Parenting at www.cpgive.org and consider a gift to support the future creation of parenting resources. And when you give today at cpgive.org, your gift will be doubled thanks to a generous donor stepping forward with a $10,000 matching grant.
All parents need a trusted community. All parents need a reminder that it's okay to be imperfect. And all parents need Jesus. As a parent comes to know and love Jesus more, so do their kids. Please visit www.cpgive.org.
Welcome to the Bible for Kids podcast with your hosts, best-selling children's author Amy Parker and author and co-creator of VeggieTales, Mike Naraki. If instilling biblical values in kids is important to you, this podcast will give you the resources, wisdom, and hope to do just that. Now, let's join our hosts, Amy and Mike, for this week's episode.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Bible for Kids podcast. I'm Mike Naraki.
And I'm Amy Parker. And today we had planned to have three friends, Kendra, Julie, and Kristin, to talk about their new friendship devotional for girls. We do have one home with a bug today. So we're just going to be speaking to Kendra and Julie today, and they're going to fill us in on Kristin as well. So we are going to talk about how much fun it was to write a friendship journal with friends. But first, we like to start every episode of the Bible for Kids podcast with a Bible verse. Mike?
A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for a time of adversity. Proverbs 17:17 of the NIV.
Or a sister is born for a time of adversity, right?
Yeah, either way.
Kendra Roehl, Julie Fisk, and Kristin Demery are co-founders of the Ruth Experience. Together, they connect with thousands of women online through real, raw stories of living out faith.
Kendra and her husband are advocates for foster care, taking in more than 20 children in 6 years and adopting 3 of them. She is a frequent speaker and has written 5 books.
After a 15-year career as a lawyer, Julie decided to follow her dream of becoming an author. When she's not writing or speaking, you can find Julie with her family, filling their home and backyard with friends.
And Kristin, who's here with us in spirit, is a former journalist and editor, and she has written 5 books. Her work has been featured in publications such as USA Today. An adventurer at heart, she loves checking items off her family's bucket list.
So welcome, friends. And your bio alone just prompts so many questions. So the first, I guess, is what is the Ruth Experience? Tell us more about what that is and what you do.
Yeah, so the Ruth Experience actually began several years ago. Julie and I were starting a church plant with some friends, and we had really, really enjoyed, as kids, what we would have termed a tea and testimony night, where people would come together and share their stories of how they came to know God or something that God had done or walked them through. And we wanted to bring that same sort of experience to people who were new in their faith, because we thought that's such a great way to encourage other people. But we didn't want to call it a tea and testimony night because that sounded so old-fashioned. So as we were praying about it, we had been reading through the book of Ruth, Julie and I, and it just hit us one day. It was like, this is the Ruth experience. I mean, this is what these 2 women did. Ruth and Naomi, they walked through hardship, pain, loss and grief, but then also hope and joy and seeing God be faithful. And so we started calling those evenings where we would gather, we would call them the Ruth Experience. So when we were deciding to create this online space for families and for women, we were like, what should we call this? Well, it felt very natural to call it the Ruth Experience again, because we just wanted to create that same sort of environment just in an online space.
I love that.
Well, and from your bio, this really stepped out to me, but you're 20 foster children in 6 years. And that sounds amazing to me. And can you tell us a little bit about that experience, why you do it, and what you've learned along the way?
Yeah. So I had, I have a background in social work. I'm actually a clinical social worker. So, and I grew up around foster kids. My aunt and uncle, who I adored, had a farm close to where I lived. And I spent so much time out there as a child. They had done foster care for about 20 years. So it was a very familiar experience to me. And they adopted several kids as well. So when my husband and I got married, I had kind of told him about their experience and just how I felt very strongly that I would like to do that as well. My husband's mother was also adopted. So he kind of brought that similar, it wasn't something that was completely foreign to him as well. So after we had prayed about it, it just felt like both of us this is something we really wanted to do. We became licensed through our county. So we were licensed through our county. So the kids who came to us came through our county, and we took in kids of all ages from birth up to, into their teen years. And the reason we stopped was we have 3 children we adopted, and we have 2 biological. So we have 5 kids. So we didn't have any more room in our home.
Oh man.
So after that many years and that many children, we had to kind of stop, which they said happens when people start adopting kids.
Yeah.
So we felt bad, but they were like, no, don't. I mean, you have been, helping us all along the way. So.
Well, and it's just got to be amazing to note the difference that must make in their lives. Have you been able to stay in touch with some of them afterward?
Yes, some of them we actually have. It's neat. We've gotten one of the benefits of social media is people can stay connected, and so I try to be very sensitive to what their wishes are. I don't want to push that onto someone who wouldn't want to continue a relationship, but we have over the years gotten messages from kids themselves or moms of kids that were in our home that then adopted some of our children. And so we've been able to share memories, and I was able to send one mom a couple of years ago who'd adopted some kids, pictures of birthdays and celebrations and different things that we'd had in our home so that those kids would still have some of those memories. And so it really has been a neat experience, and one that we kind of hopefully continue for a long time.
And we talk a lot about, practical tools and stuff for raising kids and things like that. But that foundation of just having a home, I just can't think of anything, besides our faith, obviously, but anything that would have a more profound impact on a child than just being their family, than just providing them a home. So kudos to you for what you and your husband do. It's just amazing. Mm-hmm. And Julie, I feel like I'm doing this backwards here. I'm an author going to law school and you're a lawyer turned author. So tell us how and why you made that transition from law to writing.
It's interesting. As a lawyer, you don't realize it, but you're a storyteller.
Yeah.
And so I've been a storyteller for many, many years. I just didn't fully recognize it until I made the shift, how much my skills would transfer from one to the other. We made a shift, my husband and I, because we had kiddos. We had 2 competing careers, and some decisions had to be made. And so it was quite a journey. I mean, the middle's messy, but God is good and he's faithful. And so he did. I felt very strongly at a certain point that I needed to take a serious step back and focus on some stuff that was going on in our house. And it's been, Kendra walked alongside me the whole time. I mean, you rely so heavily on your dear friends. It's been amongst the best decisions my husband and I have ever made. So no regrets. And God uses your skill sets in ways that will continue forward always. my skills are not wasted. And I would say that to anybody else who's facing some of those choices. Your skills are not wasted. God repackages them in the most amazing ways. And you look back later and say, thank you, Lord, for that gift, because I didn't know for sure at the time how it was going to play out.
Yeah.
Well, and that's spoken like a true storyteller. The middle is messy, right? It's always act 1 and act 3 are the easy parts. It's act 2 that's
well, and it's encouraging for other people to hear when you're in the middle. I mean, it's so often we wait until afterwards and then we tell people the story, but allowing people to journey with us in the middle, that's where it gets tricky sometimes, is because God hasn't fully come through, I guess would be the word maybe for you yet, and yet still allowing other people to journey with you, even in that process.
Yeah. Well, and Kendra, your sister is not here, but since you are her sister, I think you can speak on behalf of Kristin. And can you tell us a little about her work as a journalist and how that turned into writing books, and maybe about some of the adventures she's checked off her family's bucket list?
So Kristin is probably, like Julie said, she's the one of the three of us who really naturally this was a fit for her. So when Julie and I first started writing together, we immediately thought of pulling Kristin in just because she's so phenomenal at writing, and she is very, very humble about her skill. But I tease her that she's probably the best out of the three of us, and nothing that goes out of our little sphere is without her editing it. So she is like an excellent writer, an excellent editor. So she really kind of keeps us afloat when it comes to our writing. But yeah, she writes even still for other blogs and websites. And she has 3 girls. And her husband, Tim, they live just about a half an hour away from us here in central Minnesota. She's so fun. Like, she's probably the fun mom. I mean, she does. She plans like summer bucket lists. We went to her house the other night for her youngest daughter's birthday party, and she had blown up this huge like mermaid tail balloon thing and had all the kids make slime, which I may make some people mad. I hate slime. Like I hate slime. And I was like, what are you doing? Making slime. Like, she's just this wonderful mom on top of being this wonderful writer. So yes, she's always coming up with super creative things. And I'm sure she's probably already started her summer list of all.
Well, and you're talking about this sounds like this should be happening outside with slime and giant blow up inflatables. And this is
right. Yes.
Minnesota. So it's kind of,
I agree.
That sounds cold to me.
All right. Well, we have met all of you individually. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be right back and learn about the project that you're working on together.
My Arms Will Hold You Tight, a whimsical board book from mother-daughter writing duo Crystal Bowman and Terry McKinley, is filled with masterful rhymes and beloved animals, including llamas, elephants, sloths, and fun surprises like bats and flamingos, that brings the tenderness of heartfelt love between baby animals and their parents to life. A perfect gift, this book will appeal to the whole family and is sure to be a favorite book of mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, and other caregivers to read to their precious little ones. My Arms Will Hold You Tight is available now wherever books are sold.
From the creators of the 1-year daily acts of friendship comes 100 daily acts of friendship for girls. Strong, healthy friendships offer a safe place for girls to be themselves and share their deepest feelings. But how do they build lasting friendships? One of the key ingredients to having good friends is learning to be a good friend. Designed for girls 8 to 12, 100 Daily Acts of Friendship for Girls teaches what God says about friendship and will give them practical, everyday tips for developing lifelong relationships. Each devotion includes a scripture verse, a short story about friendship, questions to ponder, and a daily act of friendship section with ideas for living out what they have learned. Girls will not only learn how to develop godly friendships with others, but will discover how to be friends with Jesus, the friend who will never disappoint and will always stand beside them. 100 Daily Acts of Friendship for Girls is available wherever books are sold.
With the tenderness of a mother speaking directly to her child, best-selling author Karen Kingsbury uses her heartwarming book, Let Me Hold You Longer, to remind us that the years of childhood fly too quickly by us. Most of us faithfully remember and capture our children's firsts. Karen encourages readers to try to recognize and savor the often fleeting lasts. The last days of kindergarten and last at-bats in Little League amid the whirlwind of life. This poignant reminder has taken on a whole different meaning as families have adapted to quickly changing circumstances in a pandemic, and in some cases, let go of everyday routines while experiencing many unexpected lasts. This book makes a perfect gift for baby showers, new moms, seasoned moms, recent graduates, and anyone else who needs a reminder to savor the last moments of childhood. Let Me Hold You Longer is available wherever books are sold. Welcome back to the Bible for Kids podcast. Amy and I are speaking with Kendra Roehl and Julie Fisk.
So now that we know about you individually, tell us about you collectively. You've mentioned that, but how did you all meet? Obviously, Kendra and Kristin met pretty early on since they're sisters. But how long have you known each other? And how did you meet?
So I'm going to chime in since I'm the non-sister. I was new to the St. Cloud area. My husband and I moved here, knew nobody, moved here for jobs right out of law school. And Kristin and Kendra's older sister, Katrina, invited me to sit next to her at church. I was the new girl at church. And Katrina she was my age, woman with just the most hospitable heart, just a lovely, lovely woman. And she invited me to sit next to her, and then she was putting together a Bible study. We were all in our early 20s. And so we met around Kate's table, her kitchen table, for years. We did Bible study every Tuesday. And so we have been doing life together since our early 20s. Kate died at 28 from cancer.
Oh my goodness.
And so it's always hard for me to say that, but her legacy is so much with us. I mean, everything we do stems from that group of girls who sat around Kate's kitchen table all those years ago. There's been so much life lived. And so we just carry Kate's legacy with us. She's just part of us.
Wow, that is amazing. And your book, your new book is called 100 Daily Acts of Friendship for Girls. So can you tell us a little bit about, why you chose that topic and obviously we're learning why friendship is so important to you. But just talk a little bit about, why do you think friendship is so important to girls?
Part of it is the older we get, we realize how precious our female friendships are and how life-giving and hope-giving they are to us. I mean, we're all very happily married women, but it's our girlfriends that sometimes hold us accountable and help shove us off those cliffs, of those taking those steps with God in a way that, our husbands do too. I'm not saying anything about that, but it's our girlfriends that in a different way just carry us. And as we have done life together, we've made mistakes in friendship. We are not perfect friends. We have some bad friendship habits. And so as we started talking, we realized our moms are amazing, but they didn't intentionally instruct us on how to be a good friend when we were young. And so we fell into some bad habits. We made some mistakes, and we all have girls who are tweens, bordering on teens. And so we have been teaching our daughters, what does it mean to be a good friend? What does it mean to have healthy boundaries? What does it mean to be a friend, period? And just all of these conversations, because we desperately want for them to be further ahead in friendship than we were. And then we wanted it for every girl, because we realized not every girl has a mom who can speak this into her life. And so that's how we write the books we wish we had. And when we were trying to help our girls with friendship, we looked around and there was nothing. We couldn't find anything. And so that's what we did. We wrote the book we wish we had. And that's how this book came about.
Yeah. And Kendra, do you have anything to add that you wanted to say, or?
Well, I was just going to add, I love that, Julie. One of the things too was we had started writing 1 year daily acts of friendship, and it was an adult devotional. And as we were gathering our own stories, as Julie said, and then we started talking to other women around us, to get stories from them as well, we realized how many of the joys of friendship, but also some of the struggles and the pain points that women had started when they were girls. They were experiences they had when they were young. And so, as Julie said, we have daughters, but then we just realized, wow, if we're writing something for women, how great would it be to write something for girls when they're first going through it, to hopefully set them up. And no one's going to be perfect in this, but how can we give them the tools so that maybe they can avoid some of these pain points that we as women can now go, you know what, this started when we were girls.
Yeah. And that's a lot of reason why we have a Bible for Kids podcast, is because I feel like, and we've discovered that just, setting these foundations early on can make such an impact on, kids the rest. I mean, it takes a lot more work to correct an adult than it does to just start on strong foundations for our kids. Your book, each entry is described as a devotion. I think in Christian publishing, that can be sort of a general term that can mean a lot of different things. But there is so much packed into each daily entry of this book. So can you break down what one day looks like for us?
Sure. So we start each day with a scripture. Because we feel like that's valuable, right? Let's go to the Word of God, see what He says about these things. So we start each day with a scripture, and then there is always a story that has some kind of an application to it as well. And then we have a daily act of friendship for the girl to be able to put into practice what she's learned, along with a couple of questions for her to kind of ponder or think about. And even, I mean, I'm a journaler, so we would encourage, like, if your daughter likes to journal, she could certainly do that as well. So each day has a very specific topic that it's going to kind of hit on or touch on. And we tried to, just think of every kind of concern that a girl might have, whether it's jealousy or gossip, or even some of the good things, though, like, how do we encourage our friends? How do we support our friends in what they're doing? How do we, come alongside a friend? How do we notice people when they're hurting, but maybe they aren't saying it with their words? I mean, all of these things that we want our kids, it's not just about friendships, but I think it's about relationships in general, right? So
Yeah.
So it's very specific in how we're trying to touch on all of these different topics that can affect a girl and give her practical tools. The three of us are the kind of writers who we love scripture, but how can we make this applicable to our lives? And so everything that we write is going to have that kind of focus in mind. How do we make this applicable for people to incorporate into their everyday lives?
Yeah. And go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no, I was just going to go on to, I had a question. So go ahead, and if you had a follow up on that.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that sort of an underlying theme here, just as you're saying, we think of the Bible, if we haven't read through our Bibles or especially at a younger age, we can think of it as this book of rules or whatever, but just as an effect of this book in particular, it's not about rules. It's about how to love each other well, or how to just be a good friend. And like you said, making it applicable to daily lives. I think as a result of this book, girls will see, hey, there's actually practical information that I can use. And it's about being a friend. It's about surviving middle school. That kind of information is in the Bible. Who knew? So I think that's just so powerful that as a result of this, you're showing them that the Bible is a place that they can turn to get practical relationship advice. What a great concept if we went to the Bible for all of our relationship advice. So if they start to look there, maybe that's something that they can come to depend on.
Yeah. And by the end of the book, your readers will have actually done 50 things to strengthen their friendship in healthy ways, plus 50 bonus ideas. And that gets us our 100 acts of friendship. So I love the concept, but why did you choose to go that route and then, make the book focused on action?
Well, action is where we learn. I mean, we talk about our faith can sometimes feel a bit intangible to young people because it's all in our, it's a lot of it is in our head. A lot of it is this vertical relationship between us and God. We love the idea of action because you're putting into practice your faith. You're living your faith out loud. So when you are being a godly friend to one another, and we don't say it that way, of course, but that's what we're teaching them. You're then putting your faith into practice. You're being the hands and feet of Jesus. There's so much we learn when we are practicing it. I mean, you don't get good at anything without practice. That's why we give homework. That's why you go out and you kick the soccer ball around in the backyard. I can show you, I can tell you, but until you're doing it yourself and exercising that skill set, you're not going to get good at it. That's just how. So we have done that for our adult books too. We tell people to go practice. We don't say it quite that way, but that's what we're making them do. And it works so well. It has worked well in our families. It's worked well for us personally. And so that's why we're doing it for the girls too. Go practice being a good friend.
Yeah. Kendra, do you have anything on that?
No, she's exactly right. I mean, that's exactly why we have the book laid out the way that we did, because we wanted, and even wanting adults to kind of be able to go through this book with their, whether it's a child or someone they mentor, or just being able to have those kind of questions too, to sort of get the girl thinking and then motivated to, well, how could we be a good friend today in this similar situation that we have? So it's all meant to encourage the girl in living, like Julie said, in living out your faith.
Yeah, I love that. And two, faith without works is dead, right? And so this is just really putting that faith into action. But yeah, when I'm trying to teach a concept, especially in kids' books, there's always some sort of act to put into play, because that's where the learning becomes concrete in our brains. So I think that's so important.
Yeah. And it's such a part, of visual storytelling too. Just writing a film, your character does not transform. They don't change until you see the action of that change.
Yeah.
And you need to see that to say, okay, I get it. I get that they've arced, that they've made that
the character development. Yeah. All right. Well, we are going to take another quick break, and we will be right back on the Bible for Kids podcast.
Kids have a lot of questions about God, faith, and the Bible. Why did Jesus come to earth? Who wrote the Bible? What is faith? If you're looking for a great resource to answer some of kids' toughest questions, check out The Big Book of Bible Questions by best-selling author Amy Parker and apologist Doug Powell. With sound theology in kid-friendly terms, Amy and Doug tackle 60 questions covering the Old and New Testaments. The vibrant, playful pictures bring each answer to life and make this book even more fun for kids to read on their own. Plus, you'll love having this book at your fingertips during your family devotions or for those moments when you might need some help with answering your child's questions. The Big Book of Bible Questions is available now from your favorite bookseller.
One boy plus 2 rehydrated squirrels equals hilarious adventures in the Dead Sea Squirrels books, written by Mike Naraki. 10-year-old Michael Gomez finds 2 petrified squirrels while exploring a cave in Israel and stows them into his backpack, the perfect souvenirs from his trip. Or so he thought. When the squirrels get rehydrated during a rainstorm, Michael comes face to face with the rather chatty couple, Merle and Pearl Squirrel, who witnessed Jesus' teachings 2,000 years ago. Hilarious missteps and misadventures happen throughout the series as Michael and his friends navigate life, while Merle and Pearl offer wisdom along the way in their own squirrel style. The first 6 books in the Dead Sea Squirrels series are available at your favorite bookseller, and be sure to look for the Dead Sea Squirrels 3-book starter pack, which makes a great gift for kids who love to laugh and read at the same time.
Welcome back to the Bible for Kids podcast. Amy and I are speaking with Kendra Roehl and Julie Fisk.
Okay, so now let's talk about this process. I have worked with co-writers before, and it's really a wonderful experience. Both of you learn and grow. But I also know that it can be awkward at times. And I'm guessing just based on your backgrounds that you each bring different strengths and perspectives to the table. Like maybe Julie, there may be a little more of the analytical writing in there. That's what they like pound into your brain in law school. But what was it like working together? What do each of you bring to the process? And then what did you learn about each other and maybe your friendship as a result of writing this book on friendship?
You're exactly right. It has been, it's interesting. It's funny writing with other people. You know, we have never really written separately. We've always written together. So this is our normal for us. Which is I mean, and we know that this is rare. We're doing things that are very, very different than the way most people do it. It has been a blessing that we didn't fully recognize. There is so much work that goes into writing, and writing in community. If I get sort of stuck or discouraged, chances are Kendra or Kristin are not. And so when I'm feeling, it goes back to the story of Ruth and Naomi, quite honestly. When I'm feeling down, they grab me and are like, Julie, it's fine. Here, what about this idea? What about that idea? And then vice versa. And so we encourage one another as we go, but then also it lightens our workload. So we're a small business. So I do more of the book stuff because I have more of the analytical. I read the contracts, that type of thing. Kristin is very, very creative and does all of our graphic design stuff. Kendra keeps us on task. She's always like, okay, what's on the task list? Here we go. And so we divide and conquer, and it works really well. But you're right. We've had to use good conflict management skills. We have had to communicate clearly. We have all failed one another at one time or another. And so we've had to have a lot of grace for each other and be in friendship and a healthy working community with one another. And so I think it's grown us as women by learning how to do those kinds of business interactions as well as a true friendship interaction.
Yeah. And Kendra, what's your perspective on it?
Julie kind of nailed it there. That was great. It's true. I think, there are probably benefits to writing alone as well. But like Julie said, we've always written together. And I think that, God kind of wove our hearts together, and not that it's perfect, but as Julie said, we kind of all come in with different strengths that we have. And the biggest thing is just encouraging each other. And it's just, to me, it's another example of how we were not created to do life alone. In any kind of a profession that we have, we were always created to do life with other people. And to me, this is just another example of that. And as Julie said, it's not perfect. I think doing a couple of books on friendship has made us realize how not good friends we sometimes are. But that's okay too, because it has made us stronger in the way that we show love to one another, in the way that we tell each other we love each other, in the way that we ask for forgiveness when we need to, instead of just kind of like hoping enough time goes by and then we'll just be fine again. I mean, just things like that I think you have to kind of deal when you work with people in community, and that's actually a good thing.
Yeah. And it also gives you a lot of fodder, a lot of inspiration for new content, right?
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, or maybe I do, but what's been for each of you, Kendra and Julie, maybe the kindest or most impactful act of friendship that someone has done for you? Can you think of just one?
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's so many examples. So the example that I like to share is not actually one that has been done to me, but I share it. It's actually one that my mother experienced, because I think it was so simple and yet so profound. Mm-hmm. So when my mom was very young, her when she was a tween girl, her mother passed away. And she was part of it was called like the Lutheran League at the time. And the girls were supposed to bring a side dish to this event. And my mom kind of told one of her girlfriends who attended, I don't know what to make because my mom's not here to ask. Like, I don't know who to ask. And so that little girl went home and told her mom that my mom didn't know what to make. And that mom wrote out, like hand wrote 3 pages front and back of different simple recipes that my mom could make, like Jell-O recipes kind of thing. And as my mom was telling me this story, she opened up her recipe book and there were those 3 pages. And they're like 50 years old now. And the funny thing about it was, well, a couple of things. First of all, I am positive that that mom had no idea the impact that would have on my mother. Yeah. But the other thing was, one of those recipes is actually a favorite family recipe that we ask my mom every holiday to make. And I had no clue the history that was there. And so I love that story because it's such a good reminder to me that these don't have to be huge things that we do for one another. They can be something very, very small. And we may never even know the impact that it has on somebody else's life.
Yeah. I mean, just, in effect, being a mom to your mom.
Yeah.
Stepping in to say, okay, here's some recipes, but obviously that's just had a huge impact on her life.
And yours as well as her kids. So that's a generational impact just by writing out a recipe. I love that.
And Julie, you've had so much time to think about your answer.
I know, I'm weeping. I always cry when Kendra tells that story. I love it so much. It's such a beautiful story. I would have to say that Kate didn't know when she invited me. I was just a new girl sitting in the pew at church. And when she invited me to come sit by her, and then when she invited me to her Bible study, neither of us knew the lifelong impact that would have on me. But then, of course, all of these ripple effects that went out from that. And so that, I think, was the most profound friendship moment because it has transformed my life spiritually. I knew Jesus as a child, but I was introduced to some weird thoughts as a teenager. And so I had kind of distanced myself from God a little bit. And so I would honestly say it was around Kate's table that I really found God as a young woman. So not only faith-wise was it so profound, but then I didn't have sisters growing up. I only had brothers. And I, as a little girl, had begged God over and over for sisters. I begged him for. My mom was like, "What are you doing? No more children." I had begged God for sisters, and one day I was driving down the road. I was in my 30s, and I was just kind of conversating with God, and I said to him, "Do you remember that I had asked you for sisters? Like, do you remember that dream as a little girl?" And I just heard, how sometimes God puts thoughts into our heads, and all of my girlfriends who were in that Bible study floated through my mind. And he basically said, "Julie, I gave you sisters. I answered that prayer."
Yeah.
So, a simple invitation. You don't know. I'm a bit of an introvert when it comes to that kind of thing. And I overcome that because I think you never know. We should always invite. Let's be the girls who invite because you don't know what it's going to do for someone else.
Yeah. Well, and just the 2 examples you've each given us are so evident of that. Each of you have given us generational examples, and just as a result of sitting at Kate's table, you 3 are now writing books, and there are 100 acts of friendship in this book. And if each of those acts of friendship have the ripple effects, if you think of the number of girls doing 100 acts of friendships, and each of those friendships have, each of those acts have the same ripple effects, then you guys are, just really changing generations with what you're doing. So thank you, Kendra and Julie, so much for being with us today. Tell our listeners where they can connect with you on socials or websites or whatever, and where they can get a copy of 100 Daily Acts of Friendship for Girls.
Sure. So you can find us on social media. We love Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest at the Ruth Experience. We have the same handle across every platform. And then you can find us on our website at theruthexperience.com. And our book you can find it wherever books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local, bookstore should be able to get our books. So anywhere books are sold.
We did just put together a leader's guide for this book. So we have 60 questions and we've broken it into 15 weeks. So if moms want to use it as like a small group book, that leader guide, and we can send you the link for the show notes if you wanted for them to get a hold of that leader's guide. We're really excited about it. I feel like that's another tool for parents or church leaders or whoever just is looking for some resources around friendship for girls.
Kendra, Julie, thank you so much. And listeners, you know that we're always giving away free stuff on our socials. So follow us over at Instagram and Facebook at The Bible for Kids or on our website, thebibleforkids.com. Thanks, everybody, so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Bible for Kids podcast with Amy Parker and Mike Naraki. Be sure to connect with The Bible for Kids on Instagram, Facebook, and at thebibleforkids.com. The Bible for Kids podcast is powered by the Christian Parenting Podcast Network. Find out more at christianparenting.org. Our show is also available on waynation.com.
Christian Parenting.